Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. The right is imploding. I mean, in a bad way. Trump and going after Marjorie Taylor Greene and a couple of right-wing biatches going after anybody who questions the official story and saying everyone needs to shut up. And then TPUSGay totally implodes. Hilarious. I covered that at the end. I mean, just imploding. Today's Tuesday, November 11th. This video will be up tomorrow morning or Thursday morning. So I'm taking a day off tomorrow in terms of content. But this video will already be ready to go on Wednesday morning and then more from there. So here it is. Okay, so this is Anna Paulina Luna. One of my viewers mentioned this in a comment. And this is Valuetainment. And she says Erica Kirk lost her husband and lost her kids. Which seems like kind of a weird thing to say.
You're victimizing the victim, if that makes sense, because at the end of the day, she did lose her husband. She lost her kids. Like, I was just with her at the White House, and she's...
At the end of the day, she lost her husband and her kids? How did she lose her kids? So, you're victimizing the victim. Fuck you talking about, right? I mean, she's a fake actress, and, like, she's victimizing herself by going out there and doing things that no one believes, some fake performative bullshit, right? What does that mean? She lost her husband and lost her kids. Let's go back there again. Let's go back a little bit farther.
But Theo once said it best to J.D. Vance. He says, we can't even do cocaine nowadays, right? I don't know if you saw that clip with Theo.
Well, there's fentanyl. Don't do cocaine.
No, don't touch it.
Go
ever.
running and stuff, you know. But the fact that discord seems to be a common thread, I do think that the shooter in Pennsylvania had a handler. It seems like there's similar profiles to these people. So I definitely am curious myself to see what that evidence is. But I do think that when the information isn't put out there directly, that's when you have a lot of these, well, you know, could have Erica have been involved in any of that? And that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think that she at all had any connection to that.
Who gives a shit what you think? Like, you know, like there's this whole thing where you get to say what I get to think, right? Like, that's the whole problem. Like, you don't believe this official story either. Most people don't. Most people who are Charlie Kirk fans and a part of this thing, Republicans, and certainly people in the truth community, we don't believe this fucking story. It's ridiculous. Whatever bullshit evidence that comes out, it can look real. They can manufacture evidence and tell you this is the evidence. Okay, I guess I'll accept it now. Now that you say you got some evidence. Like, you know, these are people who lie about everything all the time, you know. We're never going to get the truth. I don't give a shit about the truth because, you know, we're not going to get it. I mean, I'd like it, you know. But I'm not going to buy your bullshit lies. Why should we buy the bullshit lies? Because, you know, somebody's fake crying. Somebody's pretending she's grieving.
When I see that, it's like you're victimizing the victim, if that makes sense. Because at the end of the day, she did lose her husband. She lost her kids. Like, I was just with her at the...
She lost her kids? You were just with her? Why?
White House. And she's, you know, that's anyone. If that happened to your wife, my husband, like, it's devastating.
What about the kids? Why did you say the kids? Like, are you know, you're just with her? But she's so sad. I mean, you don't think she's faking it. Like, you have no, you know, this is just silly. I don't know who this person is. I think is she's Trump lawyer or something? I don't know. Okay. This is, whatever it is, Tuesday, someday in November. I'll just check my phone. Big fucking hassle. November 11th. And so, you know, I am sort of scanning through. I'm going to show you after how I end up being able to, well, maybe I won't do that. Maybe I will. Who knows? We'll see what happens. You know, how I find things. And I searched through her video, the transcript, and there's no reference to Erica Kirk. You know, I mean, if there's something, if anybody else is watching these long Candace Owens videos, she goes through all these people that I don't care about. And, you know, it's hard to keep all the names straight because I'm not a part of that world. And it's not really anything I'm going to cover here unless there's something, you know, interesting about the, you know, TPUSGay, if it's to do with that stuff and whatever. I guess someone said she said in a video, and I didn't try to go find it, that Charlie Kirk was, and I might have even covered this and forgot about it. Charlie Kirk thought money and success were the same thing. He thought that money was the indicator of success, which of course, that's why he would take all the shekels, and maybe other reasons too. But she's not mentioning Erica J. Kirk here at all, and so she did, however, say this, which I thought was interesting, to go with the clip we just saw.
Also, to build upon that, I saw a clip of Ali Stuckey, who I very much like.
Yeah, she's going to stab her right here. She's going to fucking knife her.
I've been clear about that. I very much like Ali Stuckey. I'm very surprised she's working with Alyssa Cordova, but she's also in very rare form. I don't know what's driving that. And she kind of, I guess, I don't know when this live was taken, presumably over the last week. I just saw it circulating. Said to people that we shouldn't be asking these questions about the Charlie Kirk assassination. Anyways, I'm not going to put words in her mouth. Listen to Ali Stuckey.
I'm just really tired of some of y'all not thinking. I really am. You say that you're seeking truth and asking questions, but you're actually just outsourcing your critical thinking and your question asking to someone else, and you're never really asking questions. You're never saying, does that make sense? Or what could be the other side of that story? Or what is the alternative explanation for that? Or are these two things actually connected by evidence? Or does it just sound compelling? This is not a Netflix series. It's not an Agatha Christie novel. You're not watching a whodunit movie. These are people's real lives. And if you are implicating a real person in a murder plot, you better be 100% sure that it is true and backed by hard evidence. Think. Turn on your brain. The thoughts we think and the words.
It's great when someone else is telling you how to think and how to do things and what to think about and how to use your brain, and then says, turn on your brain. It's wonderful when someone's like, you guys aren't thinking, and let me tell you how you should be thinking about something. Giving, you could say, you guys need to think. Then you can't really say anything, right? If you're going to say this, like if you're going to say you need to use your critical thinking skills and then tell them how and what and how to think about something, it's not, you can't do that anymore. Once you say, hey, think for yourself. And by the way, when you're thinking for yourself, this is what you should be thinking about, right?
Words we say not only affect real people's lives, but they carry weight in eternity. We are responsible for these things. I'm going to take that seriously, but you should too. Look, y'all, I don't even want... I've just been wrestling with this so much over the past few weeks. I don't want the drama. I don't have the time and energy that it takes to go through, to make all of these claims first is incredible, but then to go through and debunk all of these claims, I don't have that time. I don't have that energy. I don't have that capacity. I don't.
So you can't debunk them. I mean, you want people to use critical thinking skills, but it's just too hard to debunk all these claims. What is your job to debunk them, right? You want people to think for themselves, and they can go out and debunk them for themselves. You're telling them to debunk them. And you're like, I don't have the energy and time for the debunking. There's too much debunking going on. I can't debunk all the time. I can't be debunking all the time. I can't be just like waking up and debunking. I got a fucking life to live. I can't be just walking around going, I got to debunk. I got to go debunk. Look. Okay, so before we'll watch Candace knife her here in a second. But, going with the first thing I showed you, which I started yesterday, that video clip, and this other thing, it's completely reasonable to think when a spouse dies that the other spouse is a suspect. In fact, they're always a suspect, right? If there is a murder, which there is, according to the official story, Charlie Kirk was murdered, right? And there is, a high correlation between, the cops always look at the spouse first, right? In any kind of situation where there's when a husband or wife is murdered, they always look at the spouse, right? And there's, and they always look at the people that are around them. they look at the, whatever their friends, people that are close. A lot of murders and things happen by somebody you know very well. Somebody that you're familiar with. So she would immediately be on the suspect list. And she's inheriting all of Charlie's wealth, right? Whatever Charlie had or whatever they had, she's inheriting that. So that's a motive. She's also taking over his job. That's also a motive. She might be having an affair. Another motive, right? She might be, a handler. There might be some, diabolical shit that's going on with the relationship. And so, there's lots of motives that would say that Erica J. Kirk is, the one of the lead suspects in a crime. And so, in this particular situation, there's a patsy, and there's all the things that go with it. But if you don't believe that official story, which almost nobody does, who would be fans of Charlie Kirk, because they're all conspiratorial. These are far right-wing, crazy conspiracy theorists, as the mainstream media would categorize them, who also don't believe in any of these stories. And, if you look at the people who have motives, when it first happened, what did I say? Well, we know Donald Trump is benefited from this. And Donald Trump, he passed out some awards and he did some bullshit. But for the most part, he went with the official story because he said that this kid should be put to death. Right? He's the president of the United States, and he's saying this kid should get the death penalty when, he said, I looked at the evidence and he did it, this kind of thing. Like he's convicted the guy, which is, all the things that they're saying, because there's a huge gag order here. They're gagging everybody who was there. It's a fucking weird thing. They don't want any stuff leaking out that would compromise the case against the kid. And then you had the widow forgive the kid, which means she's saying he did it. And then you had the president saying the kid should get the death penalty, the patsy should get the death penalty, which he's saying they did it. But for some reason, there's no gag order for them, right? And then everyone else who might have evidence and things that would compromise the case. So, we'll see how this plays out. But the majority of these people are not going to fucking accept the official story. So who are these suspects? Who benefited? And I said immediately Trump benefited because he was getting fucked by Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, we know that. Like he was, he had that, his letter had finally come out and had been confirmed. It was in the book. It was in the Jeffrey Epstein book, and Ghislaine Maxwell lied about it. And so that was going to come out, and they were about to release the files. And then the government was shut down, and Charlie Kirk was killed. Not in that order. Charlie Kirk was killed, and the government shut down, and all of a sudden, the Epstein thing has disappeared temporarily. But, it's just hanging over Trump's head. And so he benefited. Like, it was he was like fucking he's getting rolled up by the Epstein thing. And, he might avoid it now. It might have actually worked. So we'll see how it plays out. Israel benefited because Charlie Kirk was turning on Israel. And so they got him before they could, they could ignore the last couple of weeks of his life and pretend that the guy was all on board. And of course, Erica J. Kirk benefited maybe more than anybody. She's now a celebrity and whatever, she's receiving awards and doing these things. And, she's now a CEO of the company and all the things that she seems to. Very ambitious woman. And so they all have motive, right? They all have motive. And so what else? She acts weird. She acts like she doesn't grieve properly. She's not grieving at all. Weird shit she's doing, right? And so it's totally okay and to ask these questions for people because you're seeing something that doesn't make sense. And so these people that are coming out and saying, oh, don't accuse her, well, she would be a suspect. I mean, in any real domestic kind of situation where a person's killed like this, I mean, where they're calling it assassination. Well, who benefits from assassination? It's the word they're using. All these people in TPUSGay and Trump and Erica Kirk and the rest of these people are all saying he was assassinated. Well, who had motive to assassinate him? It's Israel, it's Trump, and it's Erica J. Kirk and TPUSGay people, people in the organization, his handlers, all these people. Like those are the people that look like the suspects, right? Charlie Kirk has come out with, he came out with an audit because he thought that people were, misusing funds, and they were going to do an audit. And 10 days, like not 10 days, 10 days before his murder, and 2 days before his murder, he put out a series of messages exchange where he said that he wants to cut ties with Israel. And then 2 days later, he's dead. So, like, that's fucking evidence, right? That's, questionable. And so the fact that they're saying, you should not question her, Erica J. Kirk, and people aren't going to listen. Like that woman coming out and saying, use your head and think, that doesn't work. Like, I would never do something like that here, right? Like, I would maybe mock people and say, fuck you, whatever. But I wouldn't be like, this sanctimonious bullshit, right? Because it doesn't affect people. Like, I know pretty much everything I say here, there's a small percentage of people that will do the spiritual stuff, which is the best thing that I have to offer. Either do the gratefulness meditation or just, develop some sort of, just think about, like, the Old Testament, like this is what I'm talking about. You're told that this is the Word of God, and like fucking, it means that everything in there is the Word of God, and there's a lot of shit in there. It's weird as fuck. It has nothing to do with God, almost the whole thing, right? So that's like, have you ever thought about that, right? Like, that's something you pretty much unique to my channel, I think, and that could help people. But just anything spiritual, anything where you start thinking about having, even just starting to have some, asking some questions, or just waking up to the idea that you need to have an internal relationship with God, and then maybe doing the gratefulness meditation, the Sajmark stuff that's linked in the description box of all these videos. I've had this gratefulness meditation channel, the Sajmark practice, which is free for people to do, and at their own leisure and convenience, and then other things, right? So the spiritual stuff, and then all the other things I cover here, I know it really doesn't affect people for the most part. People are going to do what they're going to do. People in your life, whatever it is, you hope for it, your kids, your loved ones, you hope to guide them, but they're just going to do what they're going to fucking do. You really don't affect people that much through, talking to them, interventions, all that shit, right? Things are going to run their course in people's lives, and, they have their own path to take. And so coming out and saying, think about it, fucking nobody's going to do that. People disagree with you. The idea of an influencer really isn't as big as people think it is, right? Maybe they can, tell you about some products that you'll be interested in, because you kind of want that thing, and so there's some level of trust there, but it's not much of a, if people don't, in terms of real change, people don't really change, right? From so-called influencers, for the most part. Only, there's some people who are in a desperate state and are looking to change, and those people, they're going to find a way to get there one way or another if they're doing it correctly, if they're praying to God, if they're, there's some sincerity in their desire for change. And then everyone else, I'm in the change business. I worked as a counselor and as a preceptor in the Sajmark system. As a professional counselor, I have a master's degree in counseling. And then my own personal growth and changing, which is the most important thing, is your own personal change, right? But, in terms of this, I understand that getting people to change is like probably pretty much the hardest fucking thing to do. But anyways, Candace Owens is going to knife this woman here.
Allie, I just think she should take a break. Like, I genuinely didn't even know she was going through it like this. Like, I don't think we asked her for any assistance at all, actually. I did all the work, and people sent me stuff, and then we put together a timeline. And here's what I want to say, because you're saying it's real life. It was Charlie's real life, Allie. That was Charlie's real life when you saw him sitting there and he got shot. That was his real life. So I feel like that's the part you're missing, because you're so worried about the surrounding cast of characters who have been literally caught lying. They lied. That's why we're here, okay? We didn't just randomly pluck people up from obscurity, okay? These are people who said, he had blood on him. He's amazing. He was so amazing, but he walked away from Charlie as he was bleeding out. His real life. That was his real life, okay? So that's what's on the line right here, is he's not here anymore, and maybe you're not worried about him, but I am. I'm actually worried, and I want to know what happened to Charlie Kirk, okay? And why I feel like you and so many Christian Zionists just kind of wanted to turn him into a ghost, like, Charlie the friendly ghost, and are not interested at all. And if you're looking for real life Agatha Christie stuff, in real life, people's necks don't stop 30-06 bullets.
Okay, so she goes on from there. So, you know, she likes Allie. I like her, and then I'm going to fucking go, you know, this is kind of Candace Owens stuff that she does. There's something else. Let me go to this Erica Kirk Instagram thing. Okay, so I was taking down the, you know, some of the tabs. I have too many tabs open. I have to start, you know, finding ones, videos I already covered, things like that. And I noticed that I had the Erica Kirk's Instagram page open. And so I was like, you know, at some point I just want to move away from this thing, at least not cover it on a daily basis. But shit keeps on coming out, right? And so I ended up showing, first of all, I ended up showing my wife this video where this woman's dressed up like Erica Kirk. And we both noticed this together. Erica Kirk, professional widow. I didn't notice that at first, but that's just funny. Okay. So I was going to close this down. And I forgot why I left it open. Now I remembered. So, you know, she's posted a lot of videos of herself on these interviews and things. You know, she's mostly about her, sometimes talking about Charlie. You know, mostly her on Charlie. Here she tells a story about Charlie in that Emily Green dress. But then there's this weird video here I'm going to show you in a moment. And also, you know, this could be a Protestant church. But it might be a Catholic church, and it's not in the video itself. You know, she apparently is Catholic, and Candace Owens has this big thing about Charlie and her. We're going to be Catholic, and, you know, Catholic, this whole thing. And so it seems like she might be fueling the fire there. I don't know. Maybe this is a church someone will know about, but I don't know if that's the case. But here, let's go to this thing first here. Okay, I see you live in Our Babies, especially at night. I remember walking into her room and hearing both of you singing Jesus Loves Me, and she falls asleep. My heart would melt. Seeing you in dad mode was my favorite, and now she sings for her baby brother as she puts him into bed every night. This is the human Hallmark card bullshit I talk about. Her voice carries both you and her in one. And in this moment, when I witness this every night on the monitor, heaven feels closer. So first of all, she is addressing this directly to her husband. I see you alive in Our Babies, especially at night. I remember walking into her room and hearing both of you singing. Now, I'm pretty sure they don't have Instagool in heaven, right? So if she's communicating with her husband, she can do that, the privacy at her own home. She doesn't have to put it on social media. Like, otherwise, it cheapens it. It makes it performative, right? Like, if you write a love letter or say something, you know, let's say her husband was alive and she did this. Why does everyone have to see it? Why does it enhance it by having... In fact, it doesn't. It cheapens it, right? There's a sort of sacredness between you and your spouse and things that are just private for you guys, right? You should have more and more of that stuff. You know, that doesn't have to be, you know, put out there in performative way on social media. It just cheapens all that shit, right? Look at what a great marriage we have. Look at how happy we are, that kind of shit. You know, if you're that happy, then why do you need everyone else to see it? And what does that do to all these people who are single and all that other shit, right? You know, people who are lonely, you know, these things. Like, so, I mean, it's just, you know, if you have a good relationship, you don't need to put it out there on social media. But in this case, the guy's dead. You know, like, it's even worse. And she's writing this letter, you know, this note, but it's so performative. And so that's the first part. The second part is they have this big thing about being private with their children, but having this thing here, you know, where they're here, you know, doing this, it's a very intimate moment between you know, and again, I don't know if this is acting or whatever. These kids are not hers and they're doing this, whatever it is. You know, Maybe she does have these kids, and maybe they're Charlie's. I don't know. Like, all these things are possible. But, you don't want to put something so intimate with your kids out. So many creeps out there, creepy people, just in general. You don't want to put that out there because of the creepiness. My videos, when I was first making videos, I had videos of my kids and myself and my ex milking our cows and goats and things. And there was some creep that showed up, and he was like saying sexual things about, people milking cows. Like, he was like weird. And so I banned him. And at that time, I thought banning meant that you could get rid of somebody from watching your videos. Like, I didn't understand YouTube, right? That banning just meant that they couldn't comment anymore. And of course, I, didn't think it through, but I almost took down the channel because there's just like, I don't want these creeps. It's just, I was going to take down the channel, and then I banned the person, and whatever happened. But I was like, I had made the decision to do it, and then something changed that. And of course, I had to do other work here. But what I realized is there's just a lot of creepy fucks out there. I knew this already because I worked in these treatment centers and, all that stuff. And so, why put this out there, right? They're hugging here. Right? It's just, why put all that shit out there? Why put all this shit out there, right? Like, you don't need other people to see this. And it's just fake. Like, she's already been late, people, it's just all performative. It's just weird. But the other thing is, Allie B. Stuckey, I'm like, where did I hear that name? And I'm like, oh, Candace Owens was just shitting on her, right? And she's right here, and she writes the best, and she has 1,900 likes there. And she's a public figure, helping women navigate a chaotic culture with biblical clarity. New York Times bestselling author of Toxic Empathy and You're Not Enough, host of Relatable with Tabs. Why do you care about New York Times bestselling when you're supposed to be some conservative, whatever it is, right? So she has 800,000 followers. So she's actually, whatever, and she has this stuff here. And she just can't debunk the stuff anymore. She just can't do it. I don't know where that post is. She can't debunk it anymore. She's not a debunker. It takes too much time to debunk things. I don't know where she posted that on something else. It's not here. Unless she took that down, or that was an Instagram Live or whatever. So that's weird. That was the one that came up. Unless they're just spying on me, which is probably like the whole way that they spy. All right, so then there was, going back to this one. So then she posted this thing here. She posted this thing here. This about churches.
And churches should step up and feed and to clothe and to be a helping hand, not government. In fact, we used to be a country that we had a lot more private charities going and helping people in need. In fact, I would make a contention, if the government cut all of its social welfare, every church would step up to make sure that no kid went hungry in this country and that no kid would die of starvation.
I would love if my tax dollars went to helping people who needed food. That's my argument here.
Well,
I think
it does. Over $1 trillion a year goes to food stamps and SNAP and Medicaid.
Perfect,
so,
and I'm glad with
no,
that.
But actually, it doesn't help.
The reason that they have these programs, these social nets, and people say, well, people take advantage of them and they're lazy. Yeah, but you have a shitty lifestyle, right? They don't give you a shit ton of money, right? They don't give you enough money to live well. There's some people who have, hidden source of income, and they exploit the government. And there's always going to be people like that. But the real reason is to protect everyone else, right? The real reason they have unemployment and these types of things and benefits for people is to keep them from rioting. Because there's always going to be, in any economy, especially our kind of economy, there's going to be some poor people, and the poor is growing. There's going to be some percentage. Like that, you can't eradicate poverty altogether. You can't eradicate unemployment. Like, you can't get it down to zero. Because it's never going to work that way. And so how do you keep those people from, rioting and overthrowing the government? Because when the poor gets, and it's, going to be substantial when, the lifestyle gets cut, right? When there's, we're we've had a kind of good run here in America. But at some point, you're going to see, drastic cuts to people's lifestyle, even people who, think of themselves as wealthy, and big economic downturn. And then just less stuff, right? There'll be less stuff being made, like the manufacturing, all this stuff that exists now. The economy collapses, and you don't have any of that shit. Like all the stuff you can order on Amazon or go to Walmart and get, there's just empty shelves. And so even if you have money, and the money itself becomes worthless, all these things. But until that happens, they want to keep everything together. And also, the money that goes to Medicare and Medicaid is a huge benefit to the pharmaceutical companies. And the food stamps is a big benefit to food companies, right? It's really the corporations that are on welfare, they're on food stamps because they're getting free governmental money. We've seen that, before. And so they're never going to do that because these corporations are too powerful. And they're not going to go through churches. But he says some fucked up thing here.
Help them nearly as much as you think. Let me tell you why. Because then we subsidize bad eating habits of the poor, so that the working poor is very obese, so they go buy Coca-Cola, Pepsi, and...
Well, that's true. That's a legitimate point.
Frito-Lays, and the church is not involved, where the church would then say, hey, instead of going to the local grocery store with a bunch of food stamps and SNAP benefits, why don't you come by our church and we'll feed all of you and a much more healthy meal made by our own members, and then you can hear the gospel afterwards.
Oh, it's just a fucking benefit. Can we hear about fucking foreskins and that shit, right? I got a thing to add to what I was saying the last couple of days. I was just talking to my wife, and I said something that I was like, oh, I wish I had that to my video. And I'll get into that. I'm going to do that directly after this clip. And then I got other things to cover here. But for him to say that, your food stamps, you can grab your own food and buy your own food, choose what food you're going to have, and have it in your own home. And what he's saying, and I think they want to supplement these churches, this isn't going to be member supported, right? That they're not going to supplement, the government will supplement these churches. And then they'll make meals, through their volunteer. The church will have volunteer people come in. Maybe people buy the food, like members, parishioners, right? Congregation, whatever it is. Church members. And they'll cook it, and then the church will get all the money. And then they'll preach their bullshit, fucking foreskin-loving Old Testament bullshit. And so, that's not better, right? It's not better. And it's you saying that these churches should get the money, and then the food companies will still get the money. The more middlemen there are, the less money that goes to the poor and the people who need it, right? But this has never been about some, giving people a free ride. It's about keeping everything stabilized and giving massive payouts to these other people. The pharmaceutical. The pharmaceutical agencies and the other people, right? The food companies.
That's the church in practice.
If Jesus fed people for free, taught people for free, and healed people for free, why don't we do the same?
Churches should. I believe.
Okay, so just whatever. Churches aren't really about that shit. There are some great Christians, and there's some great, look at every organization. In every movement, there's going to be the good ones. In every religion, there's going to be the good, sincere people. In everything there is. Like in my thing there is, right? There's people who are just better than the rest of us. I'm a good practitioner of the Sajmark system. Devoted to it. And I work for God. But, I'm kind of an asshole, right? I have my personality. And, you guys get it. I'm sure. And there are other people who are just unbelievable. People I'm like, oh my God, these people are amazing, right? Just warm, caring, just the best people. It's our, and the Sajmark system enhances it with the transmission, the cleaning. So those people are even better. But, every organization has those people. But then there's the other people, right? That are, they have a desire, they have they want to connect to God, but they have, they have prickly personalities. And that's just with everybody. That's just how it is. All right, so let me do the Old Testament thing here. Okay, so I took this thing down and I bookmarked it. The 10 craziest verses from the Bible. And, I'm sure there's another hundreds of them that you could say, well, this is actually, it's a judgment call, right? But I was talking to my wife about this, and I want to add this to what I was saying about all this. At a lodging place on the way, the Lord met Moses and was about to kill him. But Zipporah, his wife, took a flint knife and cut off her son's foreskin and touched Moses' feet with it. Surely you are a bridegroom of blood to me, she said. So the Lord let him alone. Okay, so think about how fucked up this is. Like anybody who believes that this is the word of God. So what they're saying here is, again, this is the ideas of man. This did not happen. God didn't do this, right? And so Moses grew up in Egypt, and he wasn't privy to the foreskin stuff and didn't really get it and buy it and didn't want to do it to his own kid. He didn't want to cut the foreskin off of his kid, which is, a natural thing that you would feel, right? Because it's a fucked up thing. It's genital mutilation. And God's going to fucking kill him for it. Is that really God? Come on. Get rid of your indoctrination. See it from how other people would see it. You think God would kill you for not circumcising your fucking kid 8 days after, sometime between, the first 8 days of his life? If you don't do that, then God's going to fucking kill you. Now, if you understand Moses, because Moses is really the key figure in the Old Testament in many ways. And so he led the Exodus out of Egypt, and he did all this shit for God, followed God's path. He had, all this faith. And, he was presiding over these people, and God keeps on punishing him. God keeps on fucking making him. And he wanders the desert for like 140 years, and he never makes it to the promised land because God's pissed off at him. And he's, Moses tries to, the Israelites keep on going back to the false idols. You ever see the movie The Ten Commandments with Charlton Heston? He comes down with the Ten Commandments, and he throws the stones at these stone. They're on stone, like they're written on stone, and he throws them at this statue of Baal. This bull, and it explodes. The scene, and there was another one in here where God is enslaving the Israelites because they keep on going back to idol worship and this other stuff. And God's so jealous and petty, they can't, let these people follow their own process. The God in this Bible, it's a demon, right? And so, he's always pissed at Moses. And Moses takes a fucking beating throughout this whole period, even though, he's a pretty faithful servant to God, and the people he's working with, and we saw it with Jesus. This isn't a great spiritual group of people that he's trying to elevate, right? But anyways, so after all that Moses does, and, he's a flawed human being, God punishing the shit out of him, God is going to kill him, for all the things that people do. You think about all the fucking bullshit that people do, right? You think about all the evils that are done. And God is going to really draw the line with circumcision. Like, that's how obsessed God is with the tip of your fucking penis. Right? Like, that's where he's at. Like, that's what he cares about. God's so fucking obsessed that God would kill Moses over it, right? All these evildoers, all these people doing fucking bullshit things, the Ten Commandments, and God, letting those people live and continue to do their bad shit. There's a lot of violence and bloodshed and a lot of, vengeful things that God does. But God's coming in to kill this guy. And he has to come there with, it says here, at a lodging place on the way, the Lord met Moses was about to kill him. Why can't he just say, you have a heart attack and die? God just has to think. Again, God doesn't have a mind, but, in this case, their version of God, God's all powerful. Does he have to come and fucking go kill him in person? And hey, Moses, guess what? I know that there's a lot of evil going on in the world, but you didn't fucking circumcise your son. So you're dead. I'm going to fucking kill you for that. You think that's where God draws the fucking line, right? That God doesn't intervene for so many various things and isn't intervening in the world now, and that people are getting away with fucking murder and worse, and that God, but as long as you fucking cut the tip of your son's penis off, then you're good. right? Like, it's just fucking really stupid. Like, I mean, just, horrible shit. Like, just really, really fucking stupid. Like, unbelievable. Stupid that you would think this is the word of God, and that's how God actually is. God doesn't give a shit about... If God had a position on circumcision, he'd be against it because he could have you not have fucking foreskins. Like, it's the divine... You're made by God, and God could say, hey, I don't want you guys to have big toes. Or whatever it is, right? At least they're God. God doesn't have a mind, like I said, but, the divine... You're made by God. You're made by your soul. Your soul creates your body, right? The human beings are a certain way. And in your body, you have certain things on your body, and they're not useless. God put them there for a fucking reason. And only weird motherfuckers who are obsessed with foreskins and circumcision would, say God is, oh, yeah. No, God told me to do this, right? Like these fucking rabbis that, circumcise these babies and then suck on the baby's you-know-what, right? Like fucking weird fucking shit, right? No, God said. God, it's not me, it's God, right? Like fucking, we talk about you weird fuck, right? This is a weird thing. It's genital mutilation, right? And so God's not about it. He's the opposite way, or he would have just had you not have foreskins, right? Why do you think that they do this thing? Why do you think God would want you? It's so important that you guys do this. Why would God make it that important? Like, why would God, like, that would be the one thing God really cares about? Then God would be a weird fuck, right? Like, it's anyways, all right, let's get into the other stuff here. Okay, so then this happened.
With the Syrian president earlier today, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is a big ally of yours, said that she would rather see you focused on nonstop domestic policy meetings here at the White House instead of nonstop foreign policy meetings. What's your response to her saying that, and also saying that grocery prices are up and not down, as you said?
Yeah, so I don't know what happened to Marjorie. She's a nice woman, but I don't know what happened. She's lost her way, I think. But
because she's going against Trump. So she's lost her way. We're going to hear more from this thing. But, Trump has clearly fucked his supporters in every possible way. And, it was obvious he was going to do it because he did it his first term, right? Like, he already did it to you. Like, he did it with the Operation Warp Speed. He did it the whole way he handled COVID, the whole way he handled the election in January 6th, and then turning on his supporters who got arrested. He's since gone back and, pardoned them, but not. He first disavowed them, right, after he set them up. And so, this is the guy he's always been. Michael Cohen, his fixer lawyer, he turned on him. Sloppy Steve Bannon, as he nicknamed him, he turned on him. He turned on John Bolton. Like, think about all the people. Mike Pence. I mean, this is how Trump's relationships end, right? Trump, if you're not all about Trump and you don't make him if you don't worship him, basically, the way these guys worship at these cabinet meetings, he, as soon as you criticize him, he goes after you, slams you. And so he's a piece of shit. Like, everyone should know this by now, but people don't. And let's say you thought he was going to be different and how bad Joe Biden was. I can understand, wishful thinking and, and you've got nothing to lose, so why not vote for him? But he's been way worse. He's been worse than Biden. He's worse than Kamala would have been, because Kamala and Biden didn't have the cojones that he has to do the shit that he's doing. Like, they live in they're part of a political consciousness that wouldn't have allowed them to go this far, as Biden and Kamala were, and other Democrats and other mainstream politicians. Trump just doesn't give a shit. In his last term, he's doing whatever the fuck he wants, and he's completely owned by Israel. He has no shame or no embarrassment, and all the people who voted for him should now know, even like people like Tucker Carlson and, to a lesser extent, Candace Owens and people like that clearly know that this guy's a piece of shit. And they're still not calling him out. I mean, Candace has a little bit. Just in terms of saving face, right? Just in terms of, like, your supporters are figuring it out, right? I mean, and they're going to. It's going to just get worse. Like, the writing's on the wall. He's running the fucking country into the ground. he's a complete shill. And so Marjorie Taylor Greene, to her credit, has, again, she sucks and she's a former QB, all the stuff I've said about her in the past. She's at least, and again, she's not fully going after the guy the way she should. Like, they should come out and say, this guy fucked us. He's a piece of shit. He's an elite in Republican clothing, right? Patriot clothing, like whatever that saying is about a wolf in sheep's clothing. He's a fucking elitist. He's always been an elitist. Jeffrey Epstein's pal. I mean, all this stuff, you could go down the list, and he's fucked them on everything, right?
I have to view the presidency as a worldwide situation, not locally. I mean, we could have a world that's on fire where wars come to our shores very easily if you had a bad president. We had a horrible president, and we ended up with Russia, Ukraine, and we ended up with other disasters, too. Don't forget, I put out 8 wars, 9 to come. I think I'll get the other one taken care of, but I put out 8 wars. And look at the
Put it out, it's just like a fire.
Damage that...
I guess people still buy this shit. When they listen to him brag about himself, I guess they fucking buy into it, right? I mean, just...
Ukraine has done to us as a country. I mean, we spent $350 billion. We're not spending any money anymore. Now they pay us through NATO. I got...
Like, one of the wars he put out was to give Netanyahu all of our weapons that we had at our disposal. So weapons that he hadn't even heard of, hadn't even been invented yet, that Netanyahu requested, right? And completely, licking Zionist Tate for that whole fucking time, Trump, on his knees and servicing them. I mean, and then them just demolishing a country. 95% of the buildings demolished. And that's not fucking putting down a war. Especially when the other country didn't have an army or military or support, right?
To go from 2% to 5%. Well, that's very important. When you're president, you really sort of have to watch over the world because you're going to be dragged into it. Otherwise, you're going to be dragged into a world war. I think if I weren't president, first of all, that war would have never happened if I was president. And if I weren't president, that war could have led to World War III. It won't. It's not going to anymore. But when I first got in, I said, wow, this situation could lead to World War III. And I got NATO together. I got everybody together. But with all of that, I passed a great, big, beautiful bill, which is the biggest tax cuts in the history of our country.
Like the bragging. No one's ever put off by the bragging. The constant bragging of his accomplishments. I mean, they just lap the shit up, right?
So when somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's now catering to the other side, I don't know what, I guess she's, got some kind of an act going, but I'm surprised at her. But when somebody like Marjorie goes over and starts making statements like that, it shows she doesn't know. I don't devote a lot of my time. Let me give you another example.
Oh, Jesus Christ. No thanks. So that's how he's handling that. I've been talking about these gay Republicans, right? And Scott, they're very effeminate gay Republicans. They talk like Republicans, act kind of like Republicans, but are really effeminate and gay. This guy, Scott Jennings, who is the CNN Republican that shamelessly defends Trump and Israel. But one of his colleagues, well, you'll see it here. He's got his own podcast because everyone's got one.
Fighting right now. You've seen, Western governments siding against them after October the 7th, which honestly, if you can't tell the difference between right and wrong on what happened on that day, I don't know what to say for you. Let me ask you.
Yeah, fuck you, right?
A question about free speech, because on the right, what you're hearing right now is, well, you can't really go against these people who are espousing these views. If you do, you go against free speech. My view is it's not a free speech issue. It's a question of what speech you want to be associated with. They're free to do whatever they want. It doesn't mean you have to automatically.
I mean, can you get what's with the fucking headphones, bro? Like, is it your air traffic controller? Like, you can fucking you have some money. You can fucking actually do like a proper mic.
Of every crazy thing someone says.
Listen, I mean, based on that argument, Satanists, all kinds of people with terrible ideas should be right there, a platform next to anybody else. Pedophiles, what about their free speech? That when people start...
Well, both Satanists and pedophiles were having more free speech than people in the truth community. They were being, they weren't being deplatformed like we were. So,
They always say the First Amendment is the last refuge of the scoundrel. If the only way you can defend your idea is to say, well, I have the right to say it, then get in line behind Satanists and pedophiles and other people who have terrible ideas who are also not going to be
So
platformed.
anybody who criticizes Israel is a Satanist or a pedophile. Like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? I mean, is that where you're going? That sounds like right wing bullshit, Van McMahon, right?
By Scott Jennings, CNN, or anybody else. And so, no, don't. You're dodging the issue. Here's the issue. This is the issue. There are 1.3 billion Chinese people in the world. God bless them. There are 1.4 billion Indians in the world. God bless them. There are 1.3 billion Africans in the world. God bless us. There are 1.4 billion Catholics. I'm a Protestant. 1.4 billion Catholics in the world. There are 2
Wait, don't God bless them?
billion Muslims. There's only 15 million Jews left in the whole world.
So they're like an endangered species. They're like an endangered species, right? Why is that? Like, why only 15 billion? Why isn't that taking off, right? I mean, they had a head start, right, as a religion. Both Islam and Christianity, Catholicism and Christianity, came from that religion. So there's 3 religions that came from, there's 2 other religions that have billions of people, 2 billion Christians, 2 billion Muslims, 15 million Jewish people. So why is it not taking off, right? Like, you're making it sound like, it's a specific group of people that's being targeted in some way, that they're not growing in some way. I mean, they have control of the media here. They have, how many, there's at least 2 Holocaust movies a year, if not more, in America, Hollywood movies. There's so many Jewish TV shows that feature Jewish characters, and pretty much every movie and TV show has at least some Jewish writers and some Jewish producers and the heads of the studio, right? So they have an influence, a lot of pro-Jewish stuff in our society. And they've contributed a lot, right, in terms of inventions. And, I used to say this to all the people that hated Jews. I'm like, well, you're going to give up all the things that they've invented, and the things that they've because they've produced a lot of things, right? And so it's there's the positive thing there as well, but it isn't everyone else's fault. There's only 15 million of them. You think about, I was saying this thing about the countries in my last video. What country is friends with Jewish, with Israel? What other country is friends with Israel, right? Like, what country is, what country, without being bought off and paid off, or, not just in terms of their neighbors, but just globally. I mean, no one gets along with them in the UN, and they have to take American money, like 300 billion over whatever it is, trillions of dollars, and then buy American politicians and threaten the other ones, make them sign a pledge to defend Israel. I mean, they have to use bribery and threats to have assets and allies. I mean, they have to threaten Charlie Kirk when he started to criticize, because they bought and paid for him. They have to buy all these influencers. People won't do it on their own. They won't do it just based in wanting to do right by the Jewish people. Like, look at all the influencers that are taking money. They have to buy friendship, right? They have, they have to prostitute these fucking people, right? You've been sheckled up. Why don't you give back your shekels and then see, have them take back their shekels and see how long you'll talk like this, right? There's only
15 million left.
Let's go back.
Their numbers would be 2 billion Muslims. There's only 15 million Jews left in the whole world. Only 15 million left. Their numbers would have been massively bigger if it weren't for the Holocaust and the centuries of violence.
Okay, so why is that, though? Is it just that everyone else is wrong? Like, everyone else who doesn't like them? And I'm not talking about Jewish people, because I grew up with Jewish friends. I have all these people in my life who are, positive relationship with Jewish people. Like, I don't, in terms of these, people that were my peers, one of my friends still calls me or texts me every once in a while from my basketball. He's the only person I'm still in contact with from my second life in my 20s, my college years. And the guy who started me in Sajmarg was a Jewish guy, right? Was formerly Jewish. He transcended his religion and became spiritual, but he was, born Jewish. Just like I was born Catholic, and then I transcended my religion and became a spiritual person. It's what Jesus did as well. He was born Jewish, and he transcended his religion. But you're talking about billions, and you just said the Holocaust. It only happened in 1940. That killed 6 million Jews, and some people say those numbers are inflated. But let's say it was 20 million Jews. Then their population, let's say that doubled to 40 million, right? There's still only be 65 million of them, right? Like that's still dwarfed by these other religions. There wouldn't be a billion of them. You're saying that in all these places around the world, like Jesus Christ, you don't you're obviously not a math expert unless you're counting your shekels, right, bro?
Against them before. And you have 15 million left, and half of them live in Israel. Half of them, by the way, if you want to play the color game, are people of color who are Jews that got chased out of Yemen.
Well, I don't want to play the color game.
Mizrahi and Sephardic Jews, they got chased out of Yemen. They got chased out of Egypt. They got chased out of Ethiopia.
Why does that keep on happening, bro? Like, what's the explanation? Why do they keep on getting chased out of places?
And they share their country with 20% Arabs who have mosques and rights inside of Israel. But it is the tiniest little place in the world, smaller than, people say smaller than New Jersey. It is smaller than Phoenix County in Arizona. And that's where half of the world, the remaining Jews in the world, are clinging to their existence. And when that group comes under attack, humanity has a special responsibility to defend them. Now,
well, humanity wouldn't be doing that if humanity wasn't already attacking them. You're saying it's like, who are they? They're not being attacked by aliens. They're being attacked by other people. And you're saying that you were comparing people who are criticizing Israel to pedophiles and what was the other thing? Whatever it was some undesirable thing. We'll go back and look here. Satanists. I forgot about the Satanists.
Smaller than, the people say smaller than New Jersey. And when that group comes under attack, humanity has a special responsibility.
Okay. Fuck. You're really shackled up. You guys are really shackled the fuck up, right? So I was just talking to my wife about this. I want to add this. And she said, yeah, there's more Mormons probably. And I looked it up, and there's 17 million Mormons. Like Mormon, that's growing off they believe in some weird shit. There's some videos I've watched, and I've talked to ex-Mormons, and they really believe in weird shit. And they're growing like fucking, they're growing exponentially. And, okay, so here is a chart, and I have no way to verify this, but, we know that Israel receives more aid from America than any other country, well over $300 billion. And that's not, there's so many different ways they receive aid that doesn't get accounted for. But you see here, most of it's military, right? So it's $200 billion in military plus other things. Now, Egypt, which Israel is right next to Israel wants Egypt to also receive American aid, gets the second most. And then, of course, Afghanistan because of the war, South Vietnam because we fucked that country up, Iraq because they fucked that country up, Ukraine because Joe Biden made he was bought and sold by them. South Korea puts a lot of, they're one of the biggest lobbying groups, and we have a military base there. United Kingdom because they still kind of own us a little bit. India because, this is a massive country. And all these other countries, Turkey and France and Pakistan. I don't know why we give money to France and fucking England, right? Jesus Christ. But these are all massive countries with big economies, everything other than Israel, which is a country that can do nothing for America. These other countries can do something for America. And, this is, there's a whole reason for these other countries. Like, Egypt and Israel are the same thing. So you might as well tack on Egypt's money to Israel's as well. So that's $500 billion because it benefits Israel to have Egypt being, getting all this American money. And so, then they don't have to worry about that border over there and, war with them and all that stuff. Now, Afghanistan has strategic advantage, and there was all the stuff with the wars there. South Vietnam, we had the war there. Iraq has the oil. Ukraine has the, a buffer between them and Russia. South Korea has a buffer between them and us and them and North Korea and the strategic area. United Kingdom, we know about England, and India has a massive population, and it's the world's largest democracy. And Turkey, which I'm not sure, that's also positioned there in that area, so it has some strategic value. And these countries all have economies and can benefit America. And of course, we know about France and Pakistan, similar to India, and there are two nuclear powers there that could offset China. And so with all of that bullshit, right, look at the size of this thing up here, right? It dwarfs everything else. And if you add this to it, which is really the same thing, it's substantial. And so, it's a parasitic relationship. Like they don't, it's not like they do anything for us. It's certainly not a $500 billion worth of stuff. And then it's not just the money, it's the, we have to fight wars for them. We have to be a threat. We have to, be their big brother. We have to do all the things there to make sure that they're not, absorbed. So, I mean, it's unsustainable. No matter what you do and how much manipulation you do and how much money you throw at it and all these things. And, the Bible's bullshit. So there's no chosen people. There's no promised land. There's none of that shit. That's just bullshit stuff. Those are things that people said and pretended that God said it, right? I've talked about the Old Testament so much, and we know it's fucking weird shit that they do over there. There's obsession with circumcision. God's in the air quotes obsession with circumcision, like fucking all of that shit, right? So, it's unsustainable. It's not. They're not gonna. It's gonna disappear at some point. And the religion, all of them will disappear. I mean, I that's one of the worst ones, but it's not. It's a part of the other two, and so all these religions have to go. They're a pediment to people connecting to God and becoming spiritual, and they're abuse of all. I talk about this so much, but my wife sent me this video, and I don't have it somewhere, but I can just tell you about it. There was these ostriches. They were just slaughtered in Canada, I believe. Why the conspiratorial right rallied behind a flock of ostriches. The anti-vaccine, anti-government crusade to save miracle cure birds is over, and the fringe activists lost. Save our ostriches. This is from MSNBC. So someone has the compassion of living animals or conspiracy-filled anti-government, anti-vaccine individuals. You can't hate the media enough. Well, it doesn't help you to hate them. Why the conspiratorial right rallied around a flock of ostriches. You saw this part. I've read this stuff already. Ostriches are not easy to kill. They are giant prehistoric creatures. The fastest animal on two legs, and when spooked, they run blindly with their wings outstretched. They close their eyes. Is that what you're saying? Blindly? You fuck. Ostriches at Universal Ostrich Farm near the border of British Columbia proved harder to kill than most. The 300 or so birds, no one knew the exact count, had survived an outbreak of H5N1 avian influenza and had been ordered slaughtered almost a year ago. But after the court battles, cross-border political appeals, in-person protests, and online campaign to save the flock, the fight was over. The government had won. Like, holy shit. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency, CFIA, which ordered and oversaw the culling, and the Royal Canadian Mounted Police charged with maintaining the peace, had taken pains to hide the spectacle from view in recent weeks. They roped off the ostriches' pens from the roads, stacked hay bales in a square 15-foot high, restricted airspace above the farm, including to drones, all day Thursday, and the farmers and a couple dozen supporters watched what they could from the highway while others trained high-powered camera from a nearby mountain. Everyone streaming the scenes on Facebook. The mood swung between green defiance and delirium. One minute they danced, the next minute they dropped to their knees and wept. They passed a microphone attached to a portable speaker, taunting the CFIA workers in their white protective jumpsuits as they prepared for the call. Like, holy shit, right? Like, how do you fucking justify that bullshit? I mean, I know they're justified by saying that they had some fucking avian flu that was supposed to be dangerous to people, but clearly wasn't because they didn't even kill the ostriches, right? And there's no way that all these people protesting, you'll see some of them, are right-wing right-wing conspiracy theorists. These are left-wing people, many of them, animal people, animal rights people, people, alternative health. I mean, it's just all these things. I mean, to make it like these people are all these crazy right-wing conspiracy theorists because you're posting this on MSNBC, but if they posted this on Fox, it would be these crazy left, PETA people or whatever it was, right? It's always the way that they lie to their audience. So there's a lot of videos on this on X. These are some of the people here.
Things that Big Pharma profits from. They want to make sure that there's never enough of them to do enough research so that way you guys could really realize how you guys can cure yourselves without going to get Big Pharma.
You guys are you're allowing healthy animals. Our birds have a cure for your kids, a cure for your grandmother. At least our birds have a cure that they're killing. Respect.
Like it's just so fucked. Humanity's so fucked right now. So fucked. I just got to move on. I mean, just brutal. If it's just the beginning and there's all this shit going on you don't know about. Like, I didn't know about that since my wife sent me a couple things today or yesterday, and I didn't know about it till today. And, fucking just brutal. The Canadian government slaughtered 300 perfectly healthy ostriches after science discovered ostrich eggs have miracle antibodies capable of curing unknown numbers of life-ending illnesses. Reports claim it was likely a real-life episode of Black Mirrors. So I don't know if that's true or not. I mean, those ostrich eggs probably are good for you because they're huge and they're big bird. Eggs in general are great for you. So, anyways, it's just fucking brutal. Okay, so I don't know if I'm going to read any comments today, but I haven't checked out this channel in a while. If Zohan Mandani saw this video, he would resign immediately. Well, he's probably not going to see it because there's only 15,000 views, right? Charlie Kirk dismantles socialism versus Charlie Kirk confuses leftist mob with facts and logic versus absolutely humiliated. And so these are two of Charlie Kirk's videos. They posted the one where the girl flashed herself and they got 200,000 views. That was Charlie's #1 video of all time. The most watched Charlie Kirk video. And this one only got 5,000 views 18 hours ago. 50-year mortgage solution or only a Band-Aid, everything you need to know. They're trying to, before they didn't do this stuff as much. Now they're putting these things in there. They're changing up their thumbnails to try to get these things going. The old videos didn't have all that shit, right? Mikey McCoy is a hero, right? Like, all this stuff, and so they're getting no fucking views. And even Charlie Kirk, people aren't even interested in Charlie Kirk anymore. They've lost their, if he's only getting 5,000 views from the grave, this one only get 4,000 views. My videos are getting more views than them, and I only have one person to support here. Like, I'm a one-man show here. I don't have to pay anybody. They have 450 employees at $50,000 a year. It's like $20 million payroll annually. 14,000 views. Nothing. 11,000 views, 17,000 views. They're tanking. 15,000 views, 11,000 views, 8,000 views. And they're getting nothing here. Another Charlie Kirk conspiracy theory gets exposed with facts. Whenever they put this kind of thing out there, we'll watch this one. Here's the Erica Kirk thing. The full interview only got 400,000 views. I mean, people already saw it to some extent. But, they're not even, Sydney Sweeney refuses to give in to woke cancel culture, 16,000 views. I mean, they can't even bring a celebrity in and get anything going. And so, let's look at the comments to this video before.
I'm Pastor Alan Jackson. We've had
Alan, you're great. Fucking. This one got 80,000 views. This is another Charlie Kirk conspiracy theory gets exposed with facts. It's important to remember that people trusted Charlie because he was authentic, forward, and open. She's implying that they aren't. Stop analyzing everything. Are you kidding me? Charlie Kirk was murdered in front of all of us. This is nauseating. Who's going to tell Bernadette that you can't just tell people to shut up and move on? God, these guys suck. They're so lame. This is not the same without Charlie. The fact that they chose to air this clip makes me lose trust. I'm a donor, so shut up. This attitude and behavior which feeds conspiracies, especially when we know what's happening to Charlie right before he was assassinated, apparently showed a clip that said shut up. No matter the details that come out, I'll try my best to simply focus on the fact that God is in control and he already knows it all. Transparency goes a long way. God is in control no matter what. The truth will prevail. What happened in the dark always comes to light. Yeah, that's not true. I mean, it's there for people to see, but, you know. Wait, what? I'm less than 2 minutes in and I hear stop analyzing everything. Yo, if somebody I love murdered, please analyze everything. Somebody better tell her this isn't going away. Was Bernadette a Hunter Kozak, a faked actor that asked the questions? I don't even know who this is. Incredibly disingenuous. Charlie said when we quit asking questions, we lose our freedom. This is all people that are going against them, right? I think Bernadette showed a lack of taste by saying, let's move on and get to the midterms. Obviously, she hasn't had her husband killed. This is so inappropriate and sensitive. Yeah, if she had her husband killed, she'd be doing fucking Instagram videos by the coffin like the day after and coming out and fake crying and all this other stuff. So this is, you see everything that, all the comments are negative. And, you know, I knew that was the case even before looking at this video.
In this generation.
Bernadette, thank you for being a subscriber, and shoot.
So I just really wanted to discuss how can we stop all these horrible rumors that are going on, you know, the collectiveness of everybody being so hateful towards the team and to what's going on with Erica. You know, it's just very hurtful since I've been a long-term Turning Point investor and I love Charlie more than anything. So I just think if we need to have somebody very strong to get out there and say enough is enough. We're continuing the mission of Turning Point.
You know, why don't you have all these other people that are like, why don't you read your comment section? Why don't you just go back and read all those comments? Because you are like a public entity. You're more than like a one-man show. You're not just, you could like, I can say fuck off to everybody. I don't have a payroll, right? You know, I can eke by with, you know, like whatever, all the people that I piss off by, you know, and it would be totally different because you guys are covering something up, right? But why don't you guys read your comment section instead of bringing in one person, like the one fucking viewer, you know, viewer in air quotes, sounds like a fucking shill you've brought in, one fucking person that you bring in. I mean, how many of these other people, like the ratio, it's good that I read the comments before. Like people, Bernadette is getting no love from the fucking comment section, right? And so, I mean, you guys are ridiculous. You guys put the gay in TPUSGAY, right? Especially this guy.
We don't want to lose a piece of Charlie in this. We want to support Erica at every move. Stop analyzing everything. Stop being toddlers.
Stop analyzing everything. This is what they're responding to. Holy shit. Could you piss off your viewers even more? So this is the one video that gets lots of views. This gets 80,000 when everything else is getting under 10,000. I mean, Charlie Kirk can't even have a video that's more than 10,000 views. And they're getting, it's hemorrhaging. They're hemorrhaging support. And she comes on and says all this shit. It's some fucking viewer, but like all the other viewers are like fucking, you know, come clean.
You know, stop the infighting. We have enough infighting in the party as it is. And I just think a little bit more of a stand should be taken because you guys have a very...
What do you mean stand? You want censorship? You want deplatforming? I mean, I think this woman is, you know, probably a Zionist, right?
hard job. You have the midterms coming.
Yes. Yeah, you mentioned being an investor. I think you email us all the time, don't you, Bernadette? I think I see those emails.
Yeah, you do. You give us money all the time. Shalom.
Yeah, no, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I'm sorry we can't respond to all emails. We get a lot of them. I try to respond to some when I can. But no, thank you for being
you respond to the one that agrees with what you guys are trying to do, is shut down the fucking discussion. You pick the one fucking person. Like, how fucking bad is that?
Such an interested supporter, so invested, morally as well. Yeah, that's a very good question, and I'm glad you've asked it, because it is a tough thing to navigate, and you can see how we've worked around it, because there's
no, you're not. You're just shutting it down, and you're going against the kind of people your audience are. You've cultivated a relationship with people who don't believe in the official story of mainstream media, and don't believe in this sort of thing, and something so obviously fucking fake and riddled with flaws, and you're losing to Candace Owens and other people who are, saying whatever, like they're asking these questions, whether they're just a secondary layer of controlled opposition is yet to be seen, and that'll come out one way or another. It's coming out a little bit, and you roll out Monica Erica fucking Kirk, who's a disaster. And you get no views. You get nothing. Your fucking company's imploding. There's no interest there. You have to get views. You have to have people want to watch your shit, right?
A lot of things that are so vile, so hate-driven, just so loopy.
From your own supporters, your own comment section. Go in the fucking comment section. Are you calling all your commenters vile? You don't want those people. So you don't want the 90,000 views. The title of the video, another Charlie Kirk conspiracy theory gets exposed. Okay, so what are you exposing here? Are you going into this thing about how everyone else is so vile?
Has certainly been the opinion of a lot of us here that it's not productive to engage with. You're only giving oxygen to a fire. But I think it's also true after 2 months, clearly, it has not caused them to just go away. There's still...
It's your whole fucking audience. You have no audience anymore. It's like everybody used to watch you has moved out to other places. People are coming here just because I'll say things about Erica Kirk that they won't get in other places, just so they can leave a comment talking about how much they think Erica Kirk's a fraud and a sham. Like, nobody buys your bullshit, right? And so you've lost your entire following. You have nothing. Like, you're being propped up by maybe Israeli money. I don't know, pro-Israeli money. I don't know what it is, but it's not certainly by people buying your merch and doing these other things. The martyr money isn't coming in. Nobody's thinking of Charlie that way. They've moved on from Charlie. I don't even know how much a real audience he had created. I don't know how popular he even was. And so you guys are just a fucking joke. It's like you've turned into a complete joke. So this guy's worse than the other guy, and he's like 20% more gay. Another Charlie Kirk's conspiracy theory gets exposed with what? Like, there's nothing else. I mean, I don't know what else the title said. Did it say something else here, the title? With the facts. Okay, what facts are you bringing? I mean, so, first of all, you say you don't want to engage with people, but then you come out and tell them how they're wrong, they need to shut the fuck up, and the midterms are coming.
Which is, there's clearly just a part of society that finds conspiracy theories really compelling. I was just talking about this morning.
You put out a good tweet.
I said it this morning. I'll just repeat some.
It's your audience. Charlie wouldn't have had an audience if it wasn't for people who are truthers that you're calling conspiracy theorists. So you guys are just... someone was saying these guys, a lot of them are Mormon on top of it. I'm not sure if that's true. So there's like a whole counterculture here.
Of it here, where you see how these things work. First of all, people get more attached to the idea of some conspiracy existing than any specific narrative. So they can swap in new things. Like, they'll throw out some wild idea, something obviously debunks it, and they just instantly slot in a new thing that is as crazy or even crazy.
Okay, so what has been debunked? No one has debunked shit. Nothing has been debunked. There isn't compelling evidence, and the whole fucking Patsy narrative, the single shooter thing, is already played out. Like, that's a CIA, something the CIA rolls out with manifestos and all the other bullshit, right?
Here, and they don't really pause to think about it. People love to say, I'm just asking questions, and okay, it's true, you can ask questions about things, but what is often the case is they're not actually that interested in answers. So people ask the question,
your answers suck. You don't give any real answers.
Was he on the phone when the shooting happened?
So, for example, they talked about Candace Owens released these two Charlie Kirk documents. Some of them were text message chain. The other thing was a memo he put out looking for an audit. And he clearly was talking about, not only with Candace Owens, but also live on air with Tucker Carlson and with Megyn Kelly, that he was pissed off at Israel and he was being bullied by them. And he was, and he said he was going to break free from them. So they came out and said, well, he says a lot of things, and maybe it was a he of the moment, but it was a text chain, and the audit is not happening. They say they want to honor Charlie's wishes, but they're not continuing with the audit. They haven't even talked about it. And they didn't read these things live on air. They talked about them. They confirmed that they were real, which I guess was something. I mean, better than they saying that, denying them. But they said, oh, no, he talked a lot of things. He said various things. He was all over the place. He just would spitfire ideas and then, change his mind and whatever. But in the text chain, he said he wanted to bring Candace Owens back, and he wanted to get rid of his money from Israel, from pro-Israeli lobbyists and donors. And so you guys aren't dealing with that. You admitted these things were real, but you didn't, you just dismissed them in a way that no one fucking believes, right? But there's supposed to be some facts presented here.
Then he wasn't on the phone. Yes,
and just a loss of sort of basic thinking all
let's see what he says here.
In an answer to that question.
No,
and then
he wasn't on the phone.
Yeah,
Yes,
and just no. And okay. I guess that answer, it turns out they weren't terribly interested in an answer to that question.
Okay, this is about Mikey. Let's go back here.
Actually, that interested in answers. So
exactly.
People ask the question, was he on the phone when the shooting happened? The answer is no. And okay. I guess that answer,
so that's the facts you're exposing this? Another conspiracy theory gets exposed by the facts? That's your fucking clickbait title? You got views, but you didn't get love. You got fucking hated upon by your own fucking audience. So he wouldn't even mention, he said he, but he didn't say Mikey McCoy. And he was on the phone. And his dad said he wasn't on this phone, or he called him. Then Erica said he called her. And then they said he wasn't even on the phone. Right? So which is it? He called. Yeah, so, I mean, and... this is not, it's suspicious in the way that you've handled everything up to this point, and saying that people who are conspiratorial and don't believe in the official story have no place at Turning Point USA. You're saying fuck you to your whole audience. You're saying F you to your whole audience. I mean, you're just going to be talking to nobody, like your donors and your pro-Israeli shills and other people. Like you're going to have, I mean, you're getting only 5,000 views on your fucking shitty videos. And everybody knows you guys suck. Like, even if you weren't doing this, you guys still aren't as a compelling... And Charlie Kirk sucked, too. I didn't find him, a good debater or any of these things. And he was completely bought out. Charlie Shekels. And he's certainly better than them at this job.
They weren't terribly interested in an answer to that question.
No,
and then
because you got 4 different answers from different people. You gave 4 different fucking answers.
On the phone,
yes. Yeah, and just a loss of sort of basic thinking on a lot of things, so many things. It's like, even if this was the case, who cares? So again, to use the one that we've talked about on the show.
So you're saying it didn't matter that he was on the phone seconds after Charlie was killed, that he didn't even have time to dial?
Because I think we've confronted that. Like, if Mikey was on the phone with someone, what? Like, he wasn't. Again, he was not. But if he was, like, what?
Well, then why are you saying he's not? Like, why did you say he was? Why did you say who he was? There's various people who say he was on the phone. He said the first thing he did was call Erica, and then his father, and he called all these people and said, get them together, let's all pray for Charlie, which didn't work, by the way. Those prayers fucking didn't work. You guys suck at praying. Why do you guys suck at praying so fucking bad? Charlie you guys couldn't save him with some miracle with your prayers.
The conspiracy required that someone be 20 feet away from Charlie so they could call it in to say that it's done. Like, this thing that was happening in front of...
You just said the reason, right? I mean, who knows why he was on the phone? But his phone was next to his ear.
Hundreds of
And one of the things they said was he put his fingers in his ear because the crowd was so loud. Not the gunshot, that after when he was running away from bleeding to death Charlie Kirk, that he put his fingers in his ear and it made it look like he was on the phone. His hand was on his phone at the time.
It defies rational thought, which shows that so much of this is not happening for rational reasons. And that's why.
So rational thought makes you say that an individual patsy, some guy who writes this love letter that sounds like it's been written by the FBI. I mean, it's all this shit is given as conspiratorial shit. So, but the guy doesn't deliver the facts here. I want to move on. I wasn't even going to cover these dopes. Who's this guy?
You. And for
I know,
those of
he
you
was
who
such a
don't
good man.
know,
You have anything to say?
hi Bernadette.
Supporting people, pursuing the religious revival, doing the things Charlie cared about. And Charlie would be very distressed if we were just endlessly fighting weird conspiracy theories instead of
Would he be distressed? Or he would be. That's what he would be.
doing the causes he gave his life for.
Yeah, and we do have Mikey on. If Mikey, you have anything
This
to
is Mikey McCoy.
say.
Hi Bernadette,
Mikey.
how are you?
How are you?
Hi.
You look wonderful.
Good.
I'm so
Oh
sorry.
shit, he's fucking gay too. Like Jesus Christ.
For those
so
of you
sorry
guys
for
who
your
do
loss.
not, thank you, Bernadette. Charlie
I'm so
loved
sorry.
you, and
Charlie loved you, Bernadette. You were the best. He loved you.
those of
he
you
was
who
such a
don't
good man.
know,
He loved your shekels. Like he said, Bernadette gives the best shekels. Like he wrote it on the bathroom wall. Call Bernadette for good shekels. He wrote your phone number down.
behind the scenes, Bernadette always would bring a gift to Charlie twice a year at our
I
investor
see it right
retreats.
behind you. There's the football.
There's
Look.
one behind me, and then there's one in his office.
I bet there's a lot of things behind you, Mikey.
Which is the Michael Jordan basketball, which was one of his highlights. So Bernadette, you're
Oh.
always such a good friend to Charlie. But
I don't
yeah,
want you
I
to
mean,
feel-
So this is the person they're bringing on. You know, a person, a shill. They brought a fucking shill on. You know?
I don't want you to feel hurt by all these horrible things. We know that you have a responsibility.
He's a
You're
hero, for Christ's sake. Mikey McCoy's a hero.
a young man. And I just want you to take a deep breath, like I said, and you know what? Let them spin their conspiracy theories. You're a good kid. You had instructions to call Erica.
No, but I thought he wasn't on the phone. You said he was. He just confirmed he wasn't on. What the fuck are you talking about? You've already confronted your bullshit, right?
You had a team that jumped right in there. I know that team.
That team is good at jumping in right there.
We just got to move on. We got to push the moving on, and let's get to these midterms.
Let's get to him. You know, she sounds like Joy Behar, right?
That's right. Thank you, Bernadette. It's crazy. It's just I remember taking the last picture I took of Charlie was at 12:23,
Yes.
right before he was shot, and I took that picture. My phone was already in my hand. I plugged my ears. People thought I was on a phone call. I wasn't, but
He plugged his ears, right, because he didn't want to hear the gunshot.
I
Don't worry.
did, in fact, call Erica momentarily afterwards. But thank you, Bernadette. That's very encouraging to hear from you.
You be
You've always been
encouraged
such a
and you
good friend,
keep going because we
You keep
need
going.
you.
Go,
And we
Mikey.
need that team
Fucking
to take a
Mikey.
deep breath and get
Take
your
a
pants
deep
on
breath,
and get
get on your
running.
knees, and do what you do best, Mikey.
Right?
Thank you, Bernadette.
Thanks,
God
Barney.
bless.
Fucking TPUSGay. Jesus Christ. Isn't there anybody with fucking some testosterone? I talked about how this guy shares a testicle. These two beta males sharing a testicle. And this fucking, TPUSGay. Jesus Christ.
I'm just
All
thinking
right,
of
I'll see
the
you guys,
occasional
I'll see you
times.
guys in Mar-a-Lago.
Get your pants on. I'm just thinking of the occasional times.
You
Charlie,
guys in Mar-a-Lago.
it was
there.
like a nice shirt with like shorts
Yeah,
on.
and-
He would occasionally
Yeah.
have not often, but it was a thing
No, but he
that I
said
had
this
seen
too
before.
shall pass, so get it going.
Yeah, good smiling. Laugh it up, you guys. It's fucking, where's the grieving? You've been shed from tears for Charlie.
Right?
Yeah. Yes.
God bless you, boys.
God bless
And you
you.
know what? We always got your back.
Oh, you
All
sure you
right.
do, Bernadette. Plenty of people have Mikey's back and Blake's back. Because these people, it's incredibly disingenuous, what a joke. I think Bernadette showed a lack of tact by saying, let's just move on and get to the midterms. Obviously, she hasn't had her husband killed. Totally inappropriate. Always loved to support Turning Point, but dang, these things have gotten weird since 9/10. This video truly only makes things worse for you guys. I miss Charlie. Yeah, it's fucking amateur night. It's amateur hour over there. Could you be more fucking amateur? Jesus fucking Christ. You think this is going to work by bringing in some old shill, Joy Behar sounding motherfucker that comes in who's a donor and say that this is you're allowing your audience to speak when this is your audience, right? Sorry, we're not moving on until we see the cameras of the trial. God knows what happened and he will deal with this. The truth will be revealed. Bernadette was tacky and annoying, interrupting, often very clearly trying to tout her money in relation with Charlie and the organization. Bad choice to have her on, guys. This does not help anything. You just don't tell people to move on. These people are wired. Your audience is wired in this way. They're anti-government. They're anti-fucking media. They don't believe in the official story. That's 80% of the population that are like that. I mean, 60% or 50, at least 50% are passionate about that. So you can't come out and say that shit, right? And make it sound like you're just bringing in your audience. That's not your audience. That's a fucking donor that gave a Michael Jordan basketball to Charlie. How much did that fucking cost? A basketball signed by Michael Jordan. How much did that cost? Most of these people can't afford that shit. You know, like, I'm so done with this channel. I can't even watch it anymore. It will never be the same without Charlie. There's 20 replies and 200 thumbs up. They just keep on digging a hole. Blake is a creep and just going on and on about conspiracy theories, and you're not actually giving any answers. Every time they talk, it's so inauthentic and fake. Bad vibes from all of them. Plugged your ears and walked away without knowing what happened to Charlie. What is the matter with these people? Brilliant claim to be Charlie Kirk, who embraced free speech and then tell people to shut up because they don't like what you're saying. You don't like what they're saying. Staged calls are worst. Staged calls are the worst pure sign of them trying to play defense and damage control. Yeah, it's a total stage call. It isn't like let's call this random person. Oh, it's Bernadette. And hey, what's your opinion, Bernadette? What? You want to shut down all the fucking conspiracy theories? Wow, I didn't see that coming. Well, thanks. I mean, I agree with you. Like, Jesus Christ. Charlie Kirk was asking questions about internal finances and ethics and requested a Doe-style audit of TPUSGAY. He also said certain donors were pressuring him. This is what I said. You know, this is stuff that they know from Kenneth Owen. It was going to be steering any longer, seeing a lot of these folks only brought TPUSGAY as a means to an end, and personally and politically, instead of as a creation of Charlie Kirk that's worth defending. You know, again, just all this stuff. I clicked, waited for the facts, but they never came. Yeah, they didn't deliver the facts. It was complete bullshit, horseshit title. Charlie was said to Charlie said two very, very relevant things. I'll just whatever. You get the idea. Bernadette 100% convinced me that there's no more story. Bernadette has convinced me there's more to the story. You know, you get it. So this is wow, they have to move on. This is crazy. We must pray more that the truth will come out very soon and will expose these evil lunatics who is smiling like an idiot. And so this is and I wasn't even going to cover it in a video. I didn't know this video existed. I was just going to check up on their family channel. Like I did this with Heartfulness. I would go in there and I would see, Heartfulness, how they were going downhill in terms of viewership. And what Heartfulness was doing was buying views, but they would have 100,000 views and 18 comments. And they would 10,000 views and 20 comments. And they'd have 3,000 views and 20 comments, right? And the comments were all these lame, like emojis and shit like that. And so this whole thing is an absolute fucking disaster here. So Blake Neff's good buddy here, both hired by the same gay dude. This guy, this came up on Facebook. I saw this on Facebook, and so this is kind of what made me think about going to the YouTube channel.
I just finished watching one of the most powerful new series I've seen in a long time, Truth and Treason, now streaming on Angel. It's the true story of Helmuth Hubener, a teenager in Nazi Germany who dared...
Of course he is. Fucking Nazi Germany. Of course he is, right?
...to stand against one of the most terrifying regimes in history, armed with nothing but a typewriter and the truth.
Boom. The typewriter and the truth. Why didn't he just shut up and just, stop spreading conspiracy theories? Why didn't he just take it to take one, like, weren't the midterms coming up?
He printed anti-Nazi leaflets exposing the lies of the Third Reich. He knew the risks. He knew it could cost him everything, but he did it anyways.
He knew it could cost him anything, but he did it anyways. Just like you guys are willing to stand up to the beast and the powers that be and search for the truth about who really killed Charlie. And you don't care if you lose your channel and you lose the organization and you lose all your donors and you lose all your, your shekels. You guys are all willing to do that because you guys are like, no, you're not. You're testosterone-less fucking boobs, right?
Because when you see tyranny, silence is not an option.
Exactly. Silence isn't an option. Only when it's conspiracy theories that, the midterms are coming up.
This series is gut-wrenching, yet deeply inspiring. Helmuth's courage speaks just as powerfully today as it did then. Angel Studio.
The midterms are a fucking year away.
The same team behind The Sound of Freedom and Homestead has done it again, telling stories that celebrate truth, faith, and freedom. Visit
exactly. And shekels.
Angel.com/Charlie to join the Angel Guild and stream Truth and Treason today. Be part of the movement that amplifies life.
Boom, exactly. Truth and treason, unless the midterms are coming up. So these guys are fucked. All right, I'm going to go look at the comments. I may read some, I don't know. My comments. But Jesus, like this thing's imploding. Like how bad do you have to suck to implode this bad and this quickly? Okay, so this will be greetings, brothers and sisters. This will be the first voiceover for the 131st edition of the Journey series, and the voiceover at the end of my video which will go up Thursday, November 12th. Today is Wednesday, November 12th. I got a video to make today, and it's just loaded. The video that's going to go up on Friday. So every day it's just something, because I want to do that one debate. There's a debate between Josh Hammer and Dave Smith, and I just wanted to do a video just about that. But I just keep on getting pushed back because there's always something big news that's coming. But I want to get to some of these comments here. In no particular order. I'll go in the order in which they came in. God doesn't care about countries. I believe Sodom, Gomorrah, Egypt, Babylon, and soon to be America would all disagree with that statement. There's just some dumb fuck people that comment because you're listening to my whole video. And you should get a sense of me as a person. You don't even understand my perspective. So, Sodom, Gomorrah, Egypt, and Babylon are all, fictional tales of things that are in the Old Testament that may or may not have happened, right? So, and even if they did happen, it doesn't mean that God ordered them to happen, because the being presented in the Old Testament is not God. I keep on saying that over and over again. That is a demon. It's somebody, God's major issue, his major quality is jealousy. And he's constantly punishing the Israelites for doing other forms of worship, right? Doing different kinds of worship. I mean, that's what his whole deal is, right? Why you guys keep on going back to idol worship and worshiping these fucking Moloch and all this bullshit, right? Which is weird anyway, because they're, but they can't understand the concept of a God that doesn't exist in physical form, because they're that primitive. And that's why the Old Testament's a piece of shit book. And so God, instead of accepting that he's dealing with dumbasses and can't do anything, not God, because it isn't God, the God that they present, starts using jealousy and some starts using threats and fear and punishment to induce them to worship him instead of other. Think about any kind of person who, if you don't obey them, not in the sense of, punishing you for your own good, as a parent, but acting out physically and being abusive because you don't listen, right? If your boss did that, or your coach, or anybody who uses abusive, threatening tactics. I mean, the stuff that's torture in some cases, and human sacrifice, and all this other bullshit, animal sacrifice. It's a bloody fucking book of a bloodthirsty narcissist who goes out, and so God doesn't give a shit about countries. It's this person is contradicting what I'm saying here, because they don't understand my point of view. The Bible doesn't. It's not the word of God. This, whatever happens to these countries countries die like everything else. And if the country's depraved and goes against the will of God, there's consequences. There's consequences. It doesn't mean that God gives a shit about it. And I say that because when American politicians and these so-called patriots and right-wing people, and this idea of manifest destiny, that God is somehow on our side because we have the physical abilities of a superior military to go and oppress other peoples. Like, that's not true. Like, God's not on your side. God's on your side when you're doing what you're supposed to do spiritually. But God isn't on your side to conquer other countries unless there's some, like there was a part of the plan was have connectivity around the world. Instead of having all these different peoples in small segments. Before, there was boats, and before there were planes, and before there were cars, people, spent their whole lives in a 20-mile radius. And even before horses, like people couldn't go anywhere. And so people wouldn't interact. But now we have a global, connectivity. And then we have all the technology to go with it that we can connect even without travel. And there's a sense of, connecting with other people just through the media, TV, and the internet now. And so that was desired. That was not desired. That was part of a plan. And so whatever reason that's for doesn't mean that you can go out and beat the shit out of other people and take their land. That's just what people chose to do, right? The motivation was selfish. The act was divine, as part of a divine plan to have a global connectivity. But the way that it was achieved was through individual people's greed, right? And that's not, divinity. That's people having, low life kind of stuff. Hey, Paul, did you know that this is going to be covered in my next video? I don't want to spoil. It's going to be the opening of my next video. But somebody tipped me off to something that's kind of hilarious about Trump and his being shackled. Be careful about Mrs. #1 podcaster. I don't believe anyone gets to the top without playing ball. Remember Trump calling and shutting her up about Macron? I don't trust her. Playing ball. And so what difference does it make? I mean, I said the same thing. I don't know why the person's saying this. I don't know if they're saying it to me or just everybody, but it's silly. Like they've come up with some kind of incredible concept that Candace Owens might be owned. She's, definitely doing some funny stuff, and she's really grinding away at TPUSGAY. So there's good things about what she's doing, but yeah, none of the people in the show could be trusted, but what difference does it make? You're going to be lied to? You're lied to every day by everybody. I mean, certainly the people here, but, just in life in general. People are lying to themselves. It's just a world of deception. I don't trust her. Like, what do you think? You can trust everybody else that's, not in the show? Or, just people are liars. And what difference does it make that people believe some lies? It's just, like, it doesn't affect anything. I'm going to get into that, my next video. But there's no, there's no effects to you believing or not believing the truth. You shouldn't use the Lord's name in vain. Other than that, good video. Well, you shouldn't leave dumbass comments, right? I'm not your kid. I'm not here. Don't tell me what I should or shouldn't do. There's constraints to do with YouTube, and then we all have freedom of expression. And like all the bullshit that goes on, all the fucking bad videos out there, all the, lies and just anger and hatred and all the things that put it out there, that's what you're going to, that's what I addressed this in my last video. It's because you were raised on this and you think it's some horrible thing. Your parents stressed it or whatever. You've been pounded away into your, binary capacity to understand what's going on. And so you have to speak up about it. But it's silly. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, it's just, it sucks for you to hear me say Jesus Christ. But I can say with 100% assurity that for most of you Christians, and most Christians, Jesus would take me 100% over you any day. And I'm not even a Christian, right? Just because, of somebody else on a spiritual path. Like Jesus, in terms of, if he was picking people, like if there was like religions, there's all like, Buddha and Jesus and Krishna and Muhammad and, I don't know, Moses, I don't know what else. They were all picking teams like you did, like when you were a little kid picking teams. They would pick me, Jesus would pick me before most Christians, because most Christians are a complete disappointment to Jesus. What they're doing now in terms of religion what it's become is the opposite of what Jesus wanted. And do you think Jesus wants you to go out and, say stupid comments that just piss people off and annoy people? Like, you're hemorrhaging people. People are leaving Christianity in droves. And the people you're getting are dumb people, like the people that are coming in. You're losing smart people and you're getting dumb people. Same thing's happening to my Saj Mark, the thing I do. When this dumb fuck Dodgy just, turned it into dumb fuckistan and made it into like a cult that's like, retarded. I mean, just a bad cult. It's the opposite of a cult that's functioning. It's like, it's horrible. Like, it's just so stupid. And smart people and the people of the West, they see what's going on and they don't know how to deal with it. But they all kind of sense that it's bad, right? Because it's turned into something for stupid people. It was something that was for evolved souls. Wonderful system. Just like when Jesus was alive, it was a wonderful system. And so, at some point it becomes something for dumb fucks, and then the smart people leave. And then it just becomes this really stupid religion for dumb people who care about stupid things and not the bigger things. And so, like, it's just something you would hold your tongue, because this is, my thing here, my YouTube channel, and this is how I choose to express myself. And so you'd be better off keeping your mouth shut. You just bring more shame onto your religion, like in terms of people like, who already have problems with Christians with, this kind of stupid stuff. I'm going to talk about the dumbing down thing today, so I'm going to want to say it twice in my next video. But, everything gets dumbed down, and that's what's happened here. Okay, so I have to make this bigger. It's a long-ass comment. This is also to Charlie Shekel's hologram Old Testament obsession. There have been few people that have said that Jesus, whoever he was, had traveled to India. I disagree. He did not need to. Nazareth, Galilee was under Hellenic and Roman rule for centuries, even though every thought from ancient Greece to what was called India today was available where he lived. If he was a carpenter, he was most likely spoke Aramaic and ancient Greek. Also, by the way, circumcision was practiced in Egypt before the Hebrews were told by God to do so. I believe Abraham, if he really existed, was all about appearing like others in Canaan, which was ruled by Egypt. So they infiltrated and leased off other people. Lastly, why did Abraham also circumcise male slaves? They were not Yapu's chosen people too. They were not Yapo's chosen people too. The Old Testament is filth for crazies, for cars' eyes. The issue I have with this comment is that we can't get accurate reporting today, right, in what's going on in the world. It's a sea of lies, like, fake news and disinformation. And so, over the past 2,000 years, and this person's even saying, if these people even existed, and so, like, how would you know he went to India or not? And so the reason that I would say that I know that Jesus went to India, there are these lost 18 years, and there's reports in India, again, 2,000 years ago, of Jesus being there. And the reason, the only real evidence that is necessary here is the difference between the Old Testament and the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament. I don't know. The difference between the Old Testament and the New Testament is quite profound in terms of Jesus' knowledge about spirituality and him talking about a loving God, a loving Father, and not, getting into all the old bullshit, Old Testament stuff. And the only way he got that information was through some kind of yogic practice. Like he's teaching some form of yoga. I forget what it is. But people have, compared his teachings to one of the forms of yoga. Not the best one, the one that I do, which is involving the spiritual transmission. But, that was something that was rare and didn't exist during Jesus' time. It existed in ancient times, but not 2,000 years ago. But, there's all these forms of yoga. and there was more sophisticated teachings and understanding of spirituality. And Jesus picked up on these things. He learned something. He went to these places. Like all these, you find all these New Age hippies like the Beatles and people went to India and found some superior teaching to their religion. This is where people transcend religion. So Jesus did what's something that I did and other people, where they went to India where there's a wealth of spirituality. There's a lot of bad shit in India too. A lot of corruption. I'm not saying India is some great place, but in terms of the spiritual knowledge, ancient spiritual knowledge, it's where the soul was discovered. It's the truth holy land, and it's the best place to connect to God. And I can say that from my 30 years experience of meditating, 1993, so 32 now, I think. And so going there and living there for about 3 years and taking about, I don't know how many trips I took there. And it's just a great place to meditate. I was often eager to come back to America just for, it's what I'm used to. I'm more comfortable here. But in terms of meditation and spirituality and the ashrams there that we had, back before Daji wrecked my thing, wrecked our thing, it was incredible. And so, I went through this, and so many people have gone through this, where, every saint goes through, every spiritual person has some connection to India. It's just a thing that happens. And when you go there, it's like a real, these pilgrimages to Mecca and the Wailing Wall, they're supposed to be these holy places. And there's just wonderful natural spiritual places that exist in America, like places in the West where, Utah and Arizona and the desert and, of course, like the redwood forests. And there's places where just forests in general, you find these places that are just spiritual and easy to, the land has just a lot of divine energy, things that are, hasn't been, some kinds, like you go to a city where it's so non-spiritual, right? But it's very easy to meditate and do these things in these other places. And so that wasn't available because back where Jesus was from, back in Israel, we know what they were doing because of what's said in the Old Testament. They were obsessed with fucking circumcision and weird shit. And they were violent, and the idea of God is a violent God that you're supposed to be scared of. That was so foreign to that area. So there's a chance that Jesus could have, some people could have wandered in like the three kings from his birth. The people say that they were three wise men, that they were from India. Sure, there could be that kind of thing. But more than likely, he disappeared between when he was like a teenager till he was in his 20s or something. There's these lost years, and there's a lot of speculation based in the profound difference between the yogic teachings that he's presenting in the New Testament. So there's that. And then this person wrote, I'm not going to read the whole comment, but Paul, the Mandela effect is a real phenomenon. You mentioned 2 new changes that were not part of the former Bible: eating your own dung, drinking your own piss, and all the badly cursing 40 kids who were killed by the bear. There are other changes that, this is to do with the idea these things have been changed by the Mandela effect. Now, I've had one experience with the Mandela effect. There's a teaching, there's a story. The current president and master of the thing that I do, Kamish Patel, he, when the second master of the system, Babaji, had passed away, he had named his successor, which was this guy Charji, was a guy I knew. And Charji was just hated by a lot of people. Babaji was a Yoda-like figure who, was, he used to say only forbidden is forbidden. And he said to Charji, you have to bring discipline into this mission, right? Charji was this 6'4", educated, businessman who was, just, in many ways, he was kind of like a bouncer when they traveled together. Babaji would, people would want to spend it, when you're around a higher developed spiritual soul, a spiritual master like that, you just want to be in their presence. Like it's, when you're sitting with them and just the time, and just people loved Babaji. And Charji had to shoo people away, because Babaji wouldn't do it. Babaji wasn't having boundaries. Later on, it was the same thing with Charji. But it, people were, there's this, he was towards the end of his life, and he had two kinds of cancer. He was, in his 80s. He was dying, and he still made himself available. But like he had severe leg pain. He could barely see. He was really old, and he came out to meet some new people. And like this woman was telling me the story, like this woman who had just come to India for the first time. And she said that he came out and he was really nice and he was just, loving. And some woman tried to hug him and he's like put his hands up like weakly, like he just please, Jesus Christ, like, you're not getting enough here, like he was making himself available because of the energy that he exuded. And she was, she went, overboard. And this woman said, I felt so bad for him, like, when these things. And so when Charji died, this guy, Kamlesh Patel, who became the fourth master of the system, when Babaji died, decided to kill him, right? There's three guys that they wanted to kill him. Like, there's various murder plots. It happened when Babaji was made his successor, and there was only 200 people. Like, this is how fucked up people are, right? So, but they obtained a gun, which is not that easy to do in India, right? There's not a lot of guns. They don't have a gun culture. But they had like a gun. And Charji was from the south of India, but he was staying in Babaji's house in Shah Jahanpur, which is a very small, one of these, and back then, this is 1983. So this is, a very rural place with dirt roads and, not a lot of place like the town itself. And so it wasn't some complex city with a lot of different, it was just a simple dirt road city with, primitive type of infrastructure. And they had been to Babaji's house numerous times. And they're driving around in Babaji's house. They can't find it. They keep on going everywhere. They're driving down this road and it doesn't exist. And they keep on driving. They drive for like hours and they can't, and it's just a small little fucking town. And they can't find it. And so this guy's telling the story because he later became Charji's successor and ended up shitting all over his legacy. So this is maybe a kind of an explanation. But he realizes, like, ever see that movie, Boys in the Hood? And they're driving around and the Cuba Gooding character, Cuba Gooding Jr., character gets out of the car. Like, he realizes he's not supposed to go kill. His friend and Ice Cube's brother's been killed, and they're looking to shoot him at the end of the movie. And he just gets out of the car because he realizes he's not supposed to be there. And so Kamlesh Patel's like, yeah, this is something not right. Like, there's no way we've been to this house so much where we should be driving around this small ass town. And like the house is like disappeared. It's like not in the Matrix. Like they keep on, it's like some kind of magical thing. And so when I got back from India, we'd been there for 3 years and we had a homestead in the Virginia area. We had, traveled around and camped. We were like, we were doing like homesteading things. We had a homestead and then we went camping mostly in like North Carolina down to the ocean. We started in the mountains of North Carolina and we had this time in India and then we went camping. We came back and we didn't have a place to live and we had put all our stuff in storage. And my ex came back to America and she went off medication. She had these health crises and fucking, just, it was a blessing, but it was really, difficult. And I came back to America. We kind of limped back and, I had some money from my mom passed away and there was some inheritance money, but that was like basically gone. And, I was doing this YouTube channel and, we limped back to America and I was, dating this woman that we had met and, through, Facebook or whatever. So it wasn't like it was, we were coming back to a totally no support system and just barely anything, right? We lugged back a bunch of our shit, pots and pans and suitcases from India and like, we didn't have access to all our stuff that was in storage. It was on the other side of the country where my ex was. And a lot of that stuff got wrecked. It was, whatever. So I never got most of that stuff back. But we come back and it's, we're in Henderson, Nevada, which is just, it's right next to Las Vegas. It's a suburb it's really part of Las Vegas, which I enjoyed a lot more than I thought. Like, I liked living there. And, when I ever moved to a new place, and I've moved quite a bit, within, a few weeks, I'd make a mental map of the place, right? And, this was kind of a complex city, and, but all the things were there. We lived close to all these types of things, grocery stores and like Whole Foods, and there's a couple other, like, there's a Goodwill, like we had to buy a bunch of shit at Goodwill, like just to, we had nothing. We were coming back with nothing, and my kids hadn't homeschooled in like years, and we had to fucking figure all that shit out. It was a stressful time, and there was a time when the ad apocalypse, like my YouTube channel was growing and it was becoming something where it was being financially viable, but everything's so much cheaper in India with the exchange rate that I had to, the channel had to grow substantially. And so it was like, dealing with a bunch of shit, right? And at first I didn't have a car, so I just had to walk around and, like walk to places to get things and take whatever, I don't know, it was like cabs back then. I didn't have a cell phone. Like all these things. Like for years we didn't have cell phones. So it was like all these things that had to happen. And there was this street that I lived on, and it intersected with this one street, and it had a woman's name. Like the street was, had a woman's name. And I bought like this old car, this old Toyota van that was like $2,000. I mean, I just had almost no money. I had like $5,000. I mean, just, coming back and just having to get everything starting from scratch. And this one road was my key road. Like, I used to say all roads lead to this road. Like all the places that I needed to go were either on this road or were connected to this road. So this is how I built my mental map of the place, right? This one street. And so, there was jet lag and stress, and my kids' birthdays had happened. There's all these things to deal with, like right off the bat. And, I was starting this new relationship, which I could tell right away that was kind of doomed, because this person had sort of some of the similar qualities to my ex, some of the crazy stuff that I just couldn't tolerate. It was a difficult time, but there was a period where I was driving down, there's this day I was driving down the street, the street with a woman's name. And I ended up on the opposite side of town than where I had a pretty good grasp of the place. We'd been there like 2 weeks. And I ended up on the opposite side. It was like I passed through something, like you're on a video game and you're back to where you started. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, why am I here, right? It was the weirdest fucking thing. And I kind of didn't know the road as much, I was still new to the place. So it was like, how did that happen? I was trying to figure out. It was like it violated the laws of physics. It was, where I was going to a place and I ended up back at the beginning. And I'm like, how is it, what the fuck just happened? Like, how would I end up here, right? It was like a profound kind of thing. And, it didn't really have any significance, but it bugged me. And as I later, knew the area better and better, we lived there for about a year, I would try to figure out how that happened. Like I thought about like all the time. Like it was just the weirdest thing. And I was, trying to figure out how I ended up, on the other end of where I was supposed to be. I was going north and I ended up south. Like it was just this crazy thing. But, some time went by and my family and I then moved to Utah for a bit. And, the divorce went through. And then I started a relationship and with the woman who's now my wife. And her name is the name of the street. And, the street had become something of the centerpiece of living there because of that experience that I had. But it was like what I would consider like a Mandela effect where, the matrix just glitched out, or I was, and I don't know whether it was something that I just had to experience. So like this idea that everything's an illusion, you're in a video game, and the other weird thing about it is my ex remarried and her new husband has the masculine version of that same name that my current wife does. So that was, like these things were like, this was going to happen. Like this is not part of some, choices that you made or some, whatever it is. This was, inevitable. Like this, and I've had, some experiences like that, but not as much of like this was the laws of physics had been violated, right? Where, when you're driving down a road, the places, the landmarks, and the things. and you go from one place, and they go in a linear fashion. It's not cyclical. It's not like you get onto the end of the road and it starts over again. And this road went all the way through Vegas. It's a long road with with a lot of like businesses, and and through the heart of like all these strip malls and all these kind of things. And so that was my one kind of experience with what people call the Mandela effect. Anyways, let me wrap this one up here. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely pointing from the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.